Ladies, gentlemen, and haradrim of all ages, with Vessel of Hatred underway and ongoing, there are a lot of new activities and mechanics to come to grips with, and even the old ones have been heavily reworked, even down to just leveling as a concept. With all this, one of the most important new systems that unfortunately is only available to those who have purchased the Vessel of Hatred expansion is runewords. A runeword is what you call it when you put two separate rune items into the same piece of equipment as socketables. One rune of ritual and one rune of invocation. The ritual runes generate offering in response to you completing a specific task, such as moving a certain distance, using a potion, using an ultimate skill, evading, things like that. The invocation runes give you a reaction when you reach their required offering stated on their tooltip, usually altering to be more impressive if you overshoot that and overfill an offering in a singular burst, like gathering 150 offering from the ultimate use rune into a ritual rune that requires less than 150 offering to activate, as an example. Today we're going to go through the basics of runes, how to get runes in general, how to aim for somewhat specific runes once you know what you want, and of course we'll go over the generally best runes that you'll be searching for as well. First things first, and let's talk about unlocking these very quickly. To first interact with runes, you need to do the Vessel of Hatred campaign until the stage where it asks you to visit the undercity. This isn't the event itself, just a detour to the location where it takes place, and after this campaign step you will both be given a cache containing your first runes and also have them unlocked in the first place, which makes them also able to drop from any activity in the game thereafter. But also you unlock the Kurask undercity side quest chain after that point too. This is an important quest chain to complete when you can, as you won't be able to start having tributes for the undercity activity drop from anything else until the entire side quest chain is completed. And some of the undercity tributes specifically offer bonus runes of varying rarities and are one of the best farming options to actually get these. The tributes come in different rarities, and the different tributes offer different qualities of runes, which is denoted on their actual tooltip as well, so you know what you're getting into. Other great sources of runes then are bosses in general just across the game. Most of the bosses seem to drop one rune minimum on death, which is nice, including the ladder boss summons, but world bosses are a real treat for this specifically, as world bosses will drop 3 runes in a kill. That's the lowest I've ever seen, and are the main places that I have also found a legendary quality rune, which are the highest quality that the runes drop in. So on top of their sizable value just doing world bosses in general, these will also give you a few quality runes each time that you kill them as well. Treasure goblins also seem to have an unnaturally high quality rate for the runes that they drop, and they do drop them, though not necessarily every time that you find one. These can also drop during Helltide and seem to have a low but existent drop rate just from any elite enemy in the entire game, as well as from things like resplendent chests in dungeons or mastery chests from completed events. The best consistent way of getting runes by far though is doing the undercity activity with a rune-based tribute. The rune tributes seem to on average give you 1 rune per reward tier that you reached in the undercity run. So if you're using a rune-based tribute and hit reward tier 4, you should expect to get 4 runes from the chest at the end. That's 4 runes for an average of like a 5-minute or even less activity, so that's a really solid amount of gain. But obviously this is limited by tributes, which are actually relatively uncommon compared to what you might expect, with just a generally low drop rate from things like the end chest of a pit run, Whispers of the Dead caches, or nightmare dungeons. And if you find the unique treasure goblin enemy type that is in the undercity activity itself, that will give you a number of tributes as a reward at the end of your run as well. While the chances are not guaranteed that you get high quality runes, Josh did 2 runs with the yellow quality rune tribute of undercity and got 1 legendary rune from his rewards as well, so they definitely do drop, and it's definitely not that uncommon. That said, tributes can be used in a party as well, which is worth mentioning, and with the new party finder system, you can definitely try to make sort of tribute rotations the same way that people do boss summon rotations. One person uses the actual limited resource, 4 people benefit from the rewards, and you just rotate who spends what they got. Outside of this, do world bosses literally whatever possible. Then nightmare dungeons are your best bet for general rune farming when those other 2 options are out. The bosses at the end usually drop 1. There are resplendent chests inside of nightmare dungeons too, which usually drop 1. And on top of elites just having a general drop chance for runes and there being tons of elites in nightmare dungeons, there's also a chance of finding an event inside of nightmare dungeons, and events have a chance to drop one of these runes if you complete the mastery and open the chest at the end. I also do want to mention that you get at least 1 rune from handing in Whispers of the Dead and opening the cache, but this is less of a farmable thing compared to the nightmare dungeons for the amount of them that you get for the time that it takes, so much as it's just a thing that will happen while you pursue other objectives. The last final thing is actually very notable, but more as a background thing as well, and it is the Opal of Socketables. This is one of the seasonal consumable items that you can grab through the realmwalker event. However, you may well have not seen it in game at all, or maybe you saw it once and not again and you don't know why. The main reason for this is that the game doesn't make it clear, the Opal of Socketables is only targetable if you do a Seething Realm event in Nahantu, the new region. Specifically, you need to do the Realmwalker event where it spawns in Nahantu for this to even show up as an option for you to select inside of the Seething Realm. Otherwise, you'll never have it pop up, you will never be able to get it, and its main purpose is that it makes enemies both drop gem fragments, which just are super useful in general, but also occasionally making enemies drop runes, full-on runes. So especially for this topic today, this is quite the big deal of a consumable to mention, as it just applies passively in the background of whatever activity you are doing for the next 30 minutes while it's active. On the note of actually obtaining runes then, it's also worth talking about the trade-in system for these. For 3 of the same rune, you can trade it in for a randomly rolled singular rune. Most of these trade-ins have a reasonable but not guaranteed chance of upgrading the rarity to the next one up as well, letting you turn 3 magic runes into 1 rare rune, or 3 rare runes into 1 legendary. For legendary runes, you can trade 3 for 1, but you are at least guaranteed that it will be a legendary at the end, of course. That said, you want to avoid doing this to an excessive degree because you actually do want a good pile of runes. There's another thing that you can do with these. They have a crafting purpose, which is specific Mythic uniques. This season, and moving forwards, there are 2 crafting methods of Mythic unique. The first is with the blacksmith, who will give you a random Mythic unique for 2 resplendent sparks and 50 million gold, no other questions asked. The second is with the jeweler, who will take those same 2 resplendent sparks and turn it into a specific Mythic unique of your choice, so you actually get to choose which one, if you also give them 6 of a single type of legendary rune, 6 of a rare, and 6 of a magic one, with these specific runes required being different depending on which Mythic unique you want to craft. So this is also something to keep in mind. You do want a stockpile of runes, and it's also an important reason why it matters how to farm runes. Moving on then from that, let's talk about actually making good rune words and which combinations are generally good, as well as the ones that are great in a somewhat more niche context. First things first, most of the lower rarity runes aren't great compared to the higher ones. You may have assumed that by default, of course, but a lot of these just get purely outclassed by rare legendary nodes. That said, there are a couple of exceptions to this that are very strong, even as magic runes. There are a lot of strong rare runes, even though the legendaries are where most of the power tends to lie. For the most part, the key to making a good rune word combination is knowing what your build is good at to begin with. My build spams a core skill endlessly. It isn't a channeled skill either, which makes the cast a non-channeled core skill, Rune of Ritual, just an insane generator of offering for me. And this is probably the most universally strong generator, as most classes have a strong build that spams a core skill as frequently as they can after they've solved resource management, which then funnels into this rune incredibly well. The second best generators are generally a bit more build dependent. For example, my unique combo makes me spend 100% of my maximum resource pretty much every time I do a hit, and then I regain it instantly. This makes the Pock rune, which gives you offering for percentage of maximum resource that you spend, incredibly effective. This essentially reads as 100 offering per attack that I do. For others, like Sorcerer though, the rune that gives you offering for using a cooldown can be insanely powerful. If you already have a stupidly strong generator active and are happening to use it to activate a rune of invocation that casts a skill from another class, such as Earthen Bulwark, like the one that I'm using, then it also makes the Zol rune quite incredibly strong. This gives you offering when you invoke another class's skill. As for the actual invocations, that gets a bit more class and build specific pretty quickly. If you have any barrier synergies, for example, then the Druid Earthen Bulwark rune becomes pretty solid, but the generally best one every class will be after is Ohm. This makes you cast Barbarian's Warcry. This has been rebalanced several times, and now the end result is that it costs a fair bit of offering and is a 15% bonus damage multiplier while active, simple as that. However, that just means that this rune, if put with a strong ritual so that you can activate it constantly, is essentially permanent 15% bonus damage. So that's pretty silly for just a rune word slot. The Gar rune is surprisingly good considering you get it guaranteed very early, just giving you a stacking crit chance buff, so any build that wants crit chance this is actually quite good for. And then most of the other good ones are just skills from other classes depending on what you want. Necromancer Decrepify pairs incredibly well with the Zol rune that we mentioned earlier, just being an insane generator of more offering for your second ritual rune if there's no other one that particularly boosts you instead, as it has the lowest required offering of any other class's skill, assuming that you aren't a Necromancer, of course, and this lets the Zol rune very quickly power up something like Ohm, for example, so you can have Warcry active constantly. Aside from that, there's just things like Rogue Dark Shroud Shadows, which increase your damage reduction, and that's fantastic, Spiritborn's Vortex for a relatively frequent pull effect, which can be great too, or Barbarian Earthquakes, just for a low offering cost weapon damage scaling impact that works well for bosses or enemies that don't move a whole lot because they will stack up on the ground. But also it has bonus synergies for Barbarians specifically, as they do just count as your proper Earthquakes as well. That just about does it for today then, everyone. An overview on runes and how to put them together, how to get them in the most efficient ways, including how to get the higher rarity ones too, and then just a bit of a talk on which ones are particularly good and why. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and hopefully it helps you out getting your character up and running in Vessel of Hatred. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.